Thank you for watching. This is Hot Jewish Energy. Now, part 2 of the Modern Maccabee episode. Enjoy. Before I forget, I want you to get into your account
Yeah.
at Stop the Squad, which is
Yeah.
an account name that we don't usually see and a stance that we don't really see that much. I really love you to get into that when you get a chance.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of a very like long runway to get to where we're going, but I just kind of wanted to give my view on how we fought against an anti-Semitic politician in the UK who took over a mainstream political party and won, and what Americans need to do, I think, to do the same thing in America, because I think, most Americans, funnily enough, most Americans are independents, but those who are yeah, there was a poll recently that said like 49% of Americans are registered independents, and I think it was like 25, like 20 something percent were Democrats and Republicans respectively. So it's interesting that that's the case. But those who want to maintain their party's mainstream stance, especially when it comes to like things like not tolerating anti-Semitism and stuff, need to be aware that the groups like Momentum that took over Labour in the UK and like the Squad in the US are not interested in maintaining a mainstream party. They are entryists who want to take the party to the far left in the case of the Squad, and want to make it so that the bipartisan support for Israel is destroyed. And we had a lot of like campaigns that were tasked with stopping the Squad from growing, which were really, really like successful, which was great. So we had like Nina Turner running in Ohio, who Bernie Sanders had endorsed, who was going to be like the latest like Squad member. And then we campaigned really, really hard for Shontel Brown, who's like a pro-Israel mainstream Democrat in primaries. And she won,
and she's a woman of color too,
and she's a woman of color as well, and it's so important to promote these progressive voices that are pro-Israel, that are against anti-Semitism. And so what I'm across the pond. I'm not going to pretend to tell you how to vote, what president to vote for.
But really everything that happens in the US, it does affect the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And anything. US has so much, it has influence in politics, it has influence in the music that we listen to, in the movies that we watch, in the people that we follow. Like, people don't really understand how much this country shapes the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think to your point, like what happens in America matters. I think, the support that America gives to Israel is vitally important, but also the signal that it sends about what freedom means, what tolerance means, what taking a stance against anti-Semitism means. It'll reverberate across the world if we ever had an anti-Semitic president. And so what I would say is, if you are a Jew, or even if you're not, and you care about the anti-Semitism that your Jewish friends are facing, if there is a primary and there is a choice between a Squad candidate like Ilhan Omar or AOC, and there is a moderate alternative, I urge you to vote for the moderate alternative if you want to keep your party mainstream, moderate, and free of anti-Semitism. Because it happened, Richie Torres warned about this. He said, today I think there are 6 of them. It could be 60 in 10 years. It could be more than that. And the second you have that kind of size of block, you kind of have a kind of voting block that you can't ignore in the party that's quite influential, that can torpedo bills, that can shape legislation. And so they don't even need to necessarily take over the whole party. They just need to be a significant minority within the party. And so when I started Stop the Squad, it was a joint kind of endeavor with a great account called The Jewish Resistance. I actually kind of like voiced it, and then they went ahead and actually like set up the little account. So it's at Stop the Squad, and I urge you all to follow it. And that kind of...
You guys should. It's a good account.
Yeah.
That's how I found a lot of these pro-Israel, pro-Jewish, progressive Democrat, liberal politicians, and it's a great account. You guys should follow. Continue.
Yeah. No, so that there was the shameless plug there. It's
shameless plug away. This is for you. This is your time to shine.
Yeah. No, we definitely need more followers, but I think I think what I utilized quite effectively even before I kind of like officialized my fight against the squad is that I'm very lucky that I have like influencers that have like a significant following. Like I have a reasonable following, but I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm a proper influencer with like hundreds of thousands of followers. So I'm lucky that some of them like what I say, and that come election time, if there's a squad candidate running or a Justice Democrat, which is basically the same thing, running. They've amplified my voice, and a lot of the videos that I made about like getting the vote out for people like Chantel Brown when she was running against Bernie Sanders' pick Nina Turner, um, I think helped, right? Because a lot of these races are very close, and a few thousand votes can make a difference. And so, we think of social media as just something where it's like we check out like what the latest celebrity gossip is, but actually, like if we use it correctly and we use it to mobilize our people, we can make a big difference. And I think the other thing to mention about Stop the Squad that I really wanted to get in there is that like I said, people don't realize that a lot of the time this kind of like, oh, America's the worst country in the world, and Israel by extension, it's like colonialist, like lapdog is its kind of like agent of doom, and that everything that they do needs to be opposed. It means that you end up siding with all the worst regimes in the world, right? So when the Cuban kind of like freedom revolution kicked off a few months ago, AOC's main concern wasn't that Cubans were being murdered for demanding their freedom. It was that there might be regime change and that her beloved communist regime might fall. That was what her concern was, right? And Ilhan Omar, that was talking about sanctioning Israel when Russia rolled into Ukraine, she was like, we shouldn't wholesale punish the Russian people. Oh no, we shouldn't sanction Russia, even though it was very targeted sanctions against its oil and military infrastructure and people like Putin and his inner circle. She was very much against that, and so, and like the other thing is like a lot of the time you have a lot of the pro Palestine people are also pro Kashmiri separatism, and they're very anti-Hindu, and so people think of like Stop the Squad as like a reaction against anti-Semitic politicians, but it's also politicians that are anti-Western. So if you're patriotic American and you don't like politicians that back all our enemies and all the dictators and all the communists and all the Islamist extremist regimes, then that's not the candidate for you either. If you are, if you care about like the liberation of Iran, they were very silent when the freedom revolution in Iran kicked off. They didn't say anything in support of them. I think maybe at the end they said some like performative things that they didn't really mean, but
Yeah.
but really,
It's interesting you say
yeah,
that because I feel like a lot of Americans, they love grasping on to people who are helpless,
yeah,
that look helpless, even though the Iranian people aren't helpless at all. In fact, I think they're way stronger than
oh
Americans,
yeah,
but
they're tough.
the Americans love finding, it's like, it's such a weird comparison. It's like the neighborhood mom, the housewife that wants to find like the next shelter foundation to support and do the fundraiser for the animals or the children in Africa. It's that similar thing that Americans want to find someone to help, and a lot of Americans grabbed on to the Free Iran movement a
Yeah,
lot, and they they supported it, and I was like, so you're supporting this, but you're not supporting freeing Palestinians from their own oppressive government.
yeah,
You're not supportive of freeing them from Hamas, a terror. I love how the is it on a timer, the light?
yeah. I need to fix this, but yeah, I probably
It's so,
will.
if you guys catch me laughing in the audio only and you're not watching, I'm not laughing at what he's saying. I'm just laughing because this light keeps turning off like every 30 minutes.
Yeah,
But
I'm sorry. No,
no,
I
why are you
I
sorry?
need to get the professional setup, so I'll take a leaf out of the Michael Valdes playbook next time.
Oh
Yeah,
my
work on
gosh.
that. But no, like just going back to your point,
Yeah,
I think what I was saying is basically like if you love America, if you don't
yeah,
love politicians that support its enemies, if you care about anti-Semitism, if you care about the Iranian people, the Cuban people, the Ukrainian people, all the people that are fighting against oppression, the squad has consistently betrayed all those people. And so I want to take Stop the Squad from the Jewish community where it started to universalize it and build common cause with a lot of people, including, for example, like Hindu Americans, because like I said, a lot of the people that support Palestinian Arab terrorism also support Kashmiri terrorism and separatism and Hinduphobia, and they peddle the same kind of like narrative of Hindus being this like colonialist entity, even though Hindus predate the Muslim conquest of India, and even though Jews predate the Muslim conquest of Israel by many.
Wait, people think that Hindus are
Yeah, yeah. So
colonialists?
I
Even when UK itself invaded India
no,
and it was
no,
under British rule for such, oh my.
well, like in a lot of these circles, right? Like one of the
Uh-huh.
things that like Palestinian activists do is they start, and a lot of like colonizers do this, is they start history from the point at which they colonized the people that they're trying to erase, right? And so for Palestinians, Palestinian history started when they conquered Israel, and then they became the native people, and the Jews that were there for 3,000 years, they were from nowhere. They have no rights. And in the same way, the Islamist extremists that support Kashmiri separatism want to say that Hindus are colonialist, even though they're like a 10,000-year-old civilization, and the Muslim conquest of India happened way later. And so a lot of like, if you look at like Ilhan Omar, for example, um, days after America was defeated by the Taliban, which was basically a Pakistani proxy army, right? A terrorist Pakistani proxy army. She went to visit Pakistan, right? She went to meet Imran Khan in Pakistan, and that was shocking, because this is someone that sits there and talks about Muslim human rights and democracy and representation, and the importance of like standing up for people of color, and yet she supported Pakistan's efforts to derail the what we were trying to do in Afghanistan, which is give them freedom, give them democracy, have like women learning and working. And so she basically supports a regime that dragged 40 million Afghans back to the Stone Age, and Afghan women back to the Stone Age under this terrible Taliban regime. Because like everybody knows that the reason why we lost in Afghanistan was because Pakistan used the Taliban as a proxy army, and they were using the aid money that we were giving them to fund the Taliban, and they were doing that for 20 years. And it's well known, and it's also a place that forcibly converts Hindus, where if you're a minority and you're accused of blasphemy, you're sentenced to death. Like, it's not a fun place. It's not a progressive place by any sense of the imagination. And so the fact that she chose to visit Pakistan, of all countries, tells you everything you need to know about Ilhan Omar and the squad more widely. I think what they're doing is they're trying to repackage, the, like in the case of AOC, for example, the sort of like far left kind of
Mhm.
Castro-esque like communist model, and in the case of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, this kind of like woke washed version of Islamist terrorism that is designed to appeal to social justice warriors, and it's basically been repackaged as a form of social and racial justice.
And a lot of those social justice warriors are my age.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's
I mean,
yeah.
a lot of these accounts
I
like So Informed and stuff, like they repost
Oh
these
my
things,
god.
and it's to millions of people, and it's just they're not informed at all, but they are just
Mm-mm.
buying this completely and propagating it, and that's why it's so harmful.
Yep. I Yeah, all of that. Um let's see. You already kind of said this. I It was my next question, but you already went into it, which I'm really happy that you did. Now that you're on the subject of India and now we can get into Israel and their
Yeah,
relationship. You kind of got into it a little bit, but maybe kind of give a little bit more detail
yeah.
to it.
No, happy to. I think that one of the things that you learn when you start doing this is it's kind of a process. You start at the start, and you feel like you're the most alone person in the world. because you lose friends and you get hate mail and you get death threats and you get the neo-Nazis and everyone piles in.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you get like, Jews who think the same way as you saying, okay, and then you get some other allies. But the most
Mm-hmm.
messages of support that I got during that terrible time in May 2021 when we were being bombed in Israel and bombed by the
Mm-hmm.
media as I saw it as like this evil, irredeemable like party, was from Hindus. I got
Yeah.
literally like hundreds of messages from people that I'd never met in India and Hindus in the UK and in America,
Me too.
who were like, "We love you. We love
Yeah.
Israel. We know that you're like standing up to terrorism. We face the same terrorism here in India, and we need to work
Mm-hmm.
together." And it was at that point that I
Yeah.
that I realized that actually, like, despite being culturally quite different, there are a lot of similarities between our communities. Like, we are both a very, very ancient, non-proselytizing religion and ethnicity and people. Um, so in India's case, I think they're like 10,000 years old. The first Vedic cultures were like 10,000 years old. They've been there for 10,000 years. And we've been in Israel at
Mm-hmm.
least for 3,000 years, if not more. Um, and we both suffered, Islamic colonization, that was very, very
Yeah.
murderous, and where a lot of our holy sites were desecrated. They had the birthplace of Rama, one of their gods. There was a temple there, and that was destroyed, and a mosque was built on top of it. And as we know in Israel, on top of the Temple Mount, our destroyed temple, they built two mosques,
Alex.
Al
Yeah.
Aqsa and Dome of the Rock. Um,
Yeah.
and we both achieved like indigenous decolonization of our land and independence, from the British. Actually,
Yeah.
both were colonized by the British. We both achieved independence.
Yep.
In I think we like 1948 in our case. India was beat us to it by 1 year, 1947. Um, and in terms of like our cultures, our work ethic. We love a good doctor and a lawyer. We have like the
Yep.
parents who overfeed you
Yeah.
and smother you with love, and if you get a B, it's the end of the world, and all those like. So there's a lot of like cultural similarities.
Yeah. Multi-generational households
Exactly.
too.
Yeah.
What I mean, I'm still living in my parents' house. I'm 23. I mean, I'm young and I'm trying to save up because it's like really expensive to
Yeah.
live in New York, but that sorry. I live with my parents and they're having somebody's having a conversation outside, but yeah, that sense of like family and that sense of standing up for your heritage and what you believe in and keeping that going, like I'm always so I look in admiration at how a lot of Indian households, they keep that tradition alive. They're still celebrating Diwali, they're still celebrating Holi, they're still celebrating all of the important holidays. They're putting their kids in Indian traditional dance classes. They're listening to Indian music. They're watching Bollywood films, which frankly, some of them are better than American films. I mean, we just saw it at the Oscars that RRR won Best Song, which has never happened. No Indian film has ever won that award. And I don't I don't think people see how not only in Judaism we're so proud of our culture and we're so proud of our heritage, but also in Indian culture too. And I love that you brought up that we have that similarity of that we value
Yeah. No,
that.
absolutely. And I also think like there's a lot of like similarity in terms of the challenge that we're facing, right? Like there's a lot of like
Yeah.
delegitimization of like the pride in being a Hindu, the pride in being a Jew. There's a lot of like false narratives about us being colonizers, even though we are the indigenous inhabitants of our land, and we've decolonized our land. Like Zionism, people forget about this, but Zionism is the most successful decolonization project in human history. There is no other people that I know of that has suffered expulsions and mass murder and exile from their land for 2,000 years and then come back and decolonize their land and returned home. And there were always Jews in Israel, but like in terms of being sovereign and free and safe, relatively speaking, in our homeland, that hasn't happened. And the same can be said of India. India was dominated for centuries by successive, often very brutal and murderous Islamic rulers who, like there was one of them, Timur, who killed like 4 million Hindus or something. And then they were like colonized by the British, like we were. And so there's a common narrative in terms of our history, but there's also a common threat that we face in terms of, we have, Islamist dominated neighbors who would rather we didn't exist. And India has the same. It has a real problem with Pakistani terrorism. Like everyone remembers the Mumbai massacre, where they poignantly not only attacked a luxury hotel, they also attacked a Chabad house and attacked the family of a rabbi there. And it just shows that they see us as their enemy, even though they're Pakistani terrorists and separatists. They see Hindus and they see Jews as their collective enemy. And it's crazy to me, like the squad always talks about, they always like package, and all the pro-Palestine folks always manage to package these causes that have nothing to do with them, and like they manage to appropriate them. So they talk about queers for Palestine, which is the stupidest thing ever. Like, if you were queer in Palestine, you would be murdered, right? You would be fucking killed, right?
I made a post about that. It was
KFC,
God. I said queers for
it's chickens
what?
for KFC is what I always refer to it as. It's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like,
Chickens for Chick-fil-A. That would be the more like trendy way of putting it. But my God.
So my point is basically, and then they go oh, you can't be a Zionist and a feminist. So my response to that is always to say, well, like the follow up is so you can be an Islamist and a feminist, can you? Like they are in like the Islamic regime in Iran that kills women for like showing their hair, or the morality police in Gaza that Bella Hadid should check out, like having a bikini campaign, like so.
Oh, she should go in her like Victoria's Secret garb or whatever. She should see what happens to her.
So my point is this: our opponents are able to take causes that not only have nothing to do with the Palestinian struggle, as they call it, but the diametrical opposite of all the values that Palestinian society holds dear. Like there's a lot of homophobia. There's a lot of like misogyny. There's a lot of anti-Semitism. There's a lot of racism in general in the Arab world. I mean, Qatar used slaves to build its stadiums, right?
That was the big controversy with having FIFA and Qatar.
So my point is that they're able to take these causes that have nothing to do with one another, and build this huge alliance, and have people that like these useful idiots marching with them as though they're somehow a progressive cause. But we, the Jews, feel like we can only talk amongst ourselves, and only Jews will show up for us, when there is an untapped resource of people who love us. Like, I've had so many messages of love from Hindus who've been like, we love you, we stand with you. And we have so much in common culturally, like in terms of our history, in terms of the history of Islamic colonization and British colonization, and our decolonization and our liberation. Those are all common stories. And our culture, and how we love our families and love our food and love ambition and hard work and overcoming barriers, all these things that we have in common. And crucially, our enemy is the same. Our enemy is this like genocidal Islamist extremism that threatens India, where with all this Kashmiri separatist terrorism that's killed like thousands of Indians. Pakistan has threatened it with annihilation with a nuclear weapon. We face the same thing, right? We face like the Palestinian Arab Islamist terrorism. And then we also face Iran that wants to like build a nuclear bomb to obliterate us and blow us off the face of the earth. So we have a lot in common. And then we also have a common enemy in terms of the squad, which hates India, hates Israel, hates the West, loves all the communist regimes, all the Islamist regimes. Ilhan Omar is hand in glove with CARE, which is a Muslim Brotherhood front group, right? That campaigns to like release terrorists and stuff. So there is so much that we can do if we build common cause between our two communities, because we share so much affinity, so much history, and we also share the same enemies. And our enemies are working with, they're coaxing all these useful idiots to swell their numbers and act as a force multiplier. And I'm just thinking, like, imagine if we mobilized, a lot of like the folks, the Hindus that were writing to me and saying, we stand with you. If we mobilized them and we had them backing us as we back them, and making it like, so, if there's a protest that they care about, we show up. If there's a protest that we care about, they show up. It would be amazing. And the same is true of, like, Iranians, for example. Like, if you think about who are the most vocal advocates for the Iranian revolution, who has been highlighting the oppression of women in Iran. It's been people like, Hillel Neuer at UN Watch, who's been campaigning for years to, like, kick Iran off the Women's Rights Commission.
It's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
Jews. I mean, one of one of one of the people that I think is definitely one of the biggest that I've seen, Empress Mizrahi, Matthew. They I and I'm having them on. I'm filming with them, I think, in May. I can't remember what day, but they're gonna be on, and we're gonna debunk everything and talk about everything in regards to free Iran and everything. But Jews have always, I think, the main point is that to encompass everything is that Jews have stood up for people when they needed to be stood up for, even if they weren't going to get it in return, which we haven't. I mean, we haven't really gotten that in return, which I don't think we ever expected to. My mom always says, never expect anything in return. Do it because you feel that it's right, even if you're not going to get anything from it. Like, all of these people who are advocating for all these movements, especially in the US, they want to find a cause to stand by. They're doing it for their game because they want to look like a good person. How about, instead of looking like a good person, you are a good person and not expect anything from it, not expect followers, not expect traction, not expect to get a job from it. It's unfortunate that that's what it's come to. And we as Jews have always stood up for ourselves, and I think we're going to continue to do that, obviously. But for me, I don't know if you've been feeling this too sometimes, but then you kind of come around to it that it's tiring. It's tiring being the only one standing up. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it makes us sound weak, but it's tiring. I want somebody else to step in and do some of the heavy lifting too, because we're 0.2% of point. Was it 2 or 0.2 that you said? 0.2 in the world. We're 0.2% of the population. That's a lot to hold up. It's so much,
but
but
but like I said, like, I think one of the downsides of social media is that our enemies can use it to spread lies about us. The upside, that we can punch above
yeah,
our weight, right? So, if we do this right, and we not only advocate for ourselves confidently, but we also build alliances with other communities. There's a great Hindu account called Hindu Samata, which everyone should follow. They're really, really great. If we build accounts with them, if we build alliances with them, if we build alliances with, Iranian liberation groups, with, like those seeking for, like, change in Cuba, those seeking change in like Ukraine, and we make ourselves about more than just Jewish liberation, but just liberation. Right.
yeah,
That's really, really powerful. And, again, I don't do this because I expect stuff in return, but I have to say,
yeah,
the off chance that it happens, and the rare occasions that it does happen, it feels amazing. And I've had amazing messages from a lot of, like,
yeah,
Iranians who were like, you know, we've heard a lot about the Muslim Ummah, but where were they when, Masa Amini was killed? They were nowhere. And the people that stood with us were the people that the Islamic regime told us for 44 years were our sworn enemies and the little Satan. It was Israel, and it was Jews, and it was, Jewish people in the
yeah,
diaspora standing up for us. And so we're going to stand with you. And the really satisfying one is that I have an Iranian friend, and she wrote to me, and she was like, I want to tell you that my discussion with you and my conversation with you and the support that you showed during the darkest times, and it's still very dark times in Iran, made me want to learn more
yeah,
about the relationship between, Jews and Iranians, and we talked about Cyrus the Great and how he allowed us to rebuild our temple. But she said, I now consider myself a Zionist, which I thought was an amazing thing to say, given how much effort that evil regime in Iran has spent on indoctrinating people from birth to hate Jews. That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
That is,
It
it
gives you
massively
hope.
gives you hope. And so
Yeah.
the reason I didn't really mention this, but the reason I called my account the Modern Maccabee is because I wanted to kind of conjure up that fighting spirit of those Jewish rebels that stood up to the mightiest empire in the world at the time, and kind of said, you know what, the odds are very slim, but we're going to fight the good fight because it's for freedom. And
And we're
yeah,
gonna see
and they
what
fought, and
happens.
we
Yeah.
that's all we can do, right? We have to in the annals of history, and I'm not saying that Instagram will be in the annals of history, but as Jewish people, we should always be on the side of freedom and justice. And there's a reason why why we stood with African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement, why all these movements around the world that seek liberation look to our story of Exodus and the story of movement from enslavement to sovereignty and liberation as inspiration. And it's because it is inspiring. We are a people that never says die, and that always strives to promote justice in the world. And I think we don't
We don't
settle, and
settle.
that's why all the
Yeah.
dictators in the world hate us, right? Because that's why, right? Every
Yeah.
time a dictator tries to become a god, there's a Jewish person going, maybe,
We
yeah,
question it. That's our whole thing. We
yeah,
ask questions. We even if we don't like the answer, we still ask it because we want
absolutely,
reasoning to it.
yeah.
Which
And I think
yeah.
when it comes to dictators and human rights and women's rights, we're always at the forefront of calling for it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's really, really important for Jewish people to not feel ashamed of who they are, because let me tell you, we have,
Yeah.
despite everything that we've endured, we've achieved so much. Despite being 0.2% of the population, we've won, I think, 23% of all Nobel Prizes, which statistically, if you compare that to the general population, is absurd. It's ridiculous. We've
Mm-hmm.
contributed to the world in so many ways, and the people that need to be ashamed are the anti-Semites and the things that they did to us in the name of their
Yeah.
values are unspeakable, right? The Holocaust, the
Yeah.
Spanish Inquisition, the pogroms, all the terrible things that they did to us. These are not things to be proud of, but our contribution to mankind is something to be really, really proud of. And I remember there was a great comedian, great Jewish comedian called Gary Goldman, who said,
Mm-hmm.
you can hate Jews, but just don't use our stuff. If you hate us, fine, but don't use our stuff. So Saturdays, sleeping in on Saturday, forget it. You got to go to work. You got to get up, get your shit together and go to work, because Saturday and the weekend, that's our
Yeah.
invention. You can't do that, right? And the vaccine for
Yeah.
polio. If you hate Jews, don't be vaccinated. Yeah, yeah.
Don't get the
Enjoy the
back. Yeah.
debilitating pain caused by your crippled polio legs, and the pill which we invented. If you like you like a bit of stupping, don't enjoy.
If if you don't, my kind of relating it to me, if you don't like Jews, don't
Exactly.
watch Broadway
Yeah.
shows. Don't go to the movies. Don't watch movies. Don't you can't it's like the Nicki Minaj meme. She's like, you're not gonna, oh my gosh, what did I want to say it word for word because it's just so funny. She's like, you can't get rid of me,
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah.
I ain't going nowhere. I'm not going fucking nowhere. And that's just Jews. That's Israel too. That's like, it's like when people say like, oh, y'all are like cockroaches, you don't leave. You know what, fuck it, I am a cockroach. I'm proud of it. We've stood, like, the cockroaches were the only thing that were left after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, they were, it's like, it's not an insult anymore. We've taken ownership of all of these cruel things that they've done to us, and we've remembered it, but we haven't
Yeah.
let it define us,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I
And
think it's
yeah.
it's remarkable that despite everything that's been done to us, we're such a high achieving community, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
And Yeah, like you said, like I think the reason why dictators and extremists and Islamists hate us is because we're always like, well, are you God? Are you really like all powerful? Are you omnipotent? Is it right that you make all the rules and that kill women for showing their hair and kill people for being gay and do all these terrible
Hmm.
things? I think that's wrong. I think that's not the right thing to do. I think that, if Putin like tries to colonize Ukraine, it's a bad thing and we should speak about it. If yeah,
And we do. I see a
yeah,
lot of Jews speaking about it because a lot of Jews left Russia for that reason. They didn't want to be a part of that. They didn't want to be a
yeah.
part of communism. That's why a lot of Jews left Cuba too, and people in general. My dad immigrated from Cuba with that side of my family. They came here because they didn't want to be a part of that. They came here not very wealthy, same as my mom, and it's that it's that knowing of that Jews know what's going on. They've seen it. We've been spread out so thin across the world that we pretty much know everything that's wrong in this world. And if it tries coming back and in fashion,
Seen
we're
as
like, wait, no,
yeah.
we know how bad this
Yeah,
is.
I mean, I hate to use
And
the
yeah,
metaphor canary in the coal mine because I feel like it's a little bit dehumanizing. But I will say that whenever the great Rabbi Sacks said this, right? So I feel like I'm in good company here. But whenever um, people start picking on Jews and start picking off with
mm-hmm,
anti-Semitism, it's a sign of a deeper malaise in society, and it's a sign of a decline of society. And it's no accident that every single like empire and evil dictator that said, "Oh, I'm going to wipe out the Jews," ended up falling themselves. And it's because if, in a society where you're not able to tolerate Jews and dissent, you're not able to tolerate difference, and eventually only people within your tiny little like approved myopic circle are like within the community of the good, and so everyone else has to be destroyed, and then that society falls apart. And then the other thing is, the scapegoat thing, right? So if the way I look at it is, if your roof is leaking, right? There's two things you can do. You can either say, "Oh, that's my problem. I should probably fix that," and so that my roof doesn't cave in. Or you can say, "It's not my fault. It's the Jews' fault," and you use a scapegoat and you blame them and you blame them and you blame them, and then eventually your roof caves in because you've done nothing to take accountability of your own problems, your own responsibilities, and your own failings, and you've just projected that onto a convenient scapegoat. And one of the reasons why anti-Semitism is so attractive is because it allows people to not feel like losers, to not feel like failures, because it's not you. You're good. You've done everything right. It's the Jews that rigged the system, and if only the Jews hadn't rigged the system, you would have been a billionaire, a sexy billionaire on a yacht, and everything would have been great. So that's why it's a really tough thing to tackle, because there's a lot of losers out there, unfortunately, that love to not take accountability for their own failings. And then there's also like a lot of cowards who like to feel like they're brave social justice warriors but wouldn't ever say anything against China or North Korea or Iran, because that's kind of dangerous. Someone's might kill you for that. But if you say something about the Jews, you're not going to have like a rabbi hiding in a bush and like offing, like it's not going to happen. So if
yeah,
you're a loser and a coward, it's the best. It's like everything you could ever hope for is anti-Semitism. Just alleviates all responsibility and there's no consequences. It's great. Yeah,
yeah. And I kind of really want to segue this into
sure.
something light to kind of finish it off because I think you've given so much. I think a lot with everybody that's watching. I hope they've learned a lot from what you've said because it's invaluable information. It's like I learned so much from this. That's the whole goal of why I started this podcast. I don't claim to know it all. I don't want to claim to know it all because then that's just selfish and that's immature and that's not right. But I've learned so much and I hope everyone that's watching, I hope you've learned so much from this. And we're going to finish it off with very, very light. So you mentioned that you're a big fan of Sacha Baron Cohen, which, as am I. Borat is one of my absolute favorite films. We were talking about this before we started, and I I think Saksha, he's able, it's that what I talked about before, taking ownership of all the
Yeah.
shit that people have said to us and just kind of spitting it back at them. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Here you go. And it just looks absolutely ridiculous, and they look like a bunch of idiots because of how ridiculous it looks. And do you
Yeah,
feel the
I
same
do.
way
I,
about
I
that?
think I think the funniest thing is when he went to America and he was song of
Oh
like
my
throw the Jew
god.
down the well, and he just went like somewhere in the deep south, and people were just like, "Yeah, seems right. Let's sing." And I was like, "Hello, like, are you reading this? Are you? Is it registering that it's not
Mm-hmm.
cool to say this stuff?" And so I just think he was very like irreverent and very, yeah,
He's fearless. He did some batshit stuff that most people wouldn't do. And my mom always says this all the time. She said all the stuff that he's done, he is only getting away with it because he's Jewish. And I'm like, you're right, because he's exposing all the ugliness of all the ways that people still think. Like, I think one of my favorite scenes, it was the one where he goes into the motel or into the bed and breakfast, and they're and obviously his character is very very anti-Semitic, and he sees the cockroaches and he thinks that the motel owners, that they turned into the cockroaches, and he's trying to kill them, and he's like throwing money at them. It's like the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen, and it's so insensitive. Like, you I feel like if you're going to watch those movies, you have to have a sense of humor. You have to have an open mind, because if you don't, you're just going to be so disgusted by this movie. But he's just there's a reason why he was recently just invited to the Kennedy Center honors, I believe. And I I think it was that I'm so bad with remembering names of things, but he was invited to a very prestigious thing here in the States. I believe it was the Kennedy Center honors. Correct me if I'm wrong, whoever's watching, but he gave a whole routine, and he talked about the anti-Semitism that was going on in as Borat. And it was so fascinating, because he's created a character that's so unlikable, but is it just likable in a way because he's showing all the ugliness and all the evil that's in the world. And it's just, he's just a
do,
genius,
do you want
and
to know the
he is
Yeah, no,
UK's
he's great. Like,
finest.
the sad part is that, like, that the scene where there's like a parade, and then the Jew eggs, you have to crush the Jew
Mm-hmm.
eggs before they hatch, like to stop the Jews, like all that shit. There is a parade in Belgium, and I think it's called Aachen or somewhere like that in Belgium, where there is a parade like that in real life. That's not even like a like there's no eggs, but there's like literally like parades of like Hasidic Jews with like the stramos with the payos and the huge nose and like bags of money and stuff. That's a real thing that is happening in the world. And so it's a caricature, yes, but it's a caricature that's very much based on, sadly, on reality. But I think he's been one of the very, very best in calling it out, and actually like showing the world what it's like to see things from where we're sitting, and to just have like the most crazy things thrown at you. And I think one of the reasons why I feel like humor is such a Jewish superpower is because the world has been so crazy to us, and the stuff that people say about us is so unbelievable and ridiculous and crazy, that you have to have humor as like a coping mechanism. Otherwise, you'd cry all the time. Like, you have to laugh so that you don't cry, right? Um, yeah,
That's what my whole account is for. I take such serious shit, and I try making it funny. I try making it digestible, because that's the only way we're going to process this stuff. Because if it's so serious, like it happens all the time on my feed when things get really serious, because I follow all the informational accounts, and sometimes even with your content, it's so heavy, which
yeah.
things need to be heavy. It does. Like, things, you need to have that. But sometimes I see you, and then I see other pages, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, because it's a lot of reality, and it's just very raw. But me and other creators who are kind of taking more of a light approach to it, I think that's what we're trying to do in like a Sacha Baron Cohen style of like, taking it and making it digestible for everyone, and to kind of laugh, but then also realize, wait, this is real. I'm gonna keep that in the
Yeah.
back of my
I,
mind
I
for
think I
next
think
time.
like whenever I'm feeling like at a low ebb and my energy's low and I need a bit of an injection of energy, I go onto Hot Jewish Energy and it gives me the pick me up that I need, and it just giggle, and I'm right as rain after
I
that.
appreciate that.
So I think it's there is no like right way to do Jewish advocacy and deal with this subject. I think
Mhm.
you have to deal with it with a generous helping of humor, because the stuff that people say about us is so ridiculous. Um, you know, I leave it to funnier people than me to lead with accounts like that. I
I think you have a pretty good sense of humor. I mean, this was a very serious episode, and we laughed a little bit and we had fun, but I think you could get into a little bit of comedy. Like I would love to see that. I mean, I love the informational videos. I love the work that you put into it and the eloquency that you have in your advocacy. I want to see that with the humor too. I think you got it. And I think you can add that British twang to it that Americans find. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love a good British accent. I love British vocabulary. It's just we kind of laugh a little bit because we're like, wait, this is so entertaining, and it's just like the littlest things. We're like mesmerized by it. Like
someone
I'm
needs to love
mesmerized by
the
it.
British accent, because everyone in Europe hates us, especially after Brexit. So we we appreciate all the love
Mm.
that Americans have for us and our accent. I think the reason why we initially started talking about Sacha Baron Cohen is because when Borat came out, I had a little bit of facial hair at the time, not a mustache, but some facial hair. And everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's Borat!" And so like a Borat like
Oh my god.
look like for a while.
I don't see it.
Yeah, which
Remember I
I
told you
didn't
Ben
see, but
Platt.
I'll take a compliment, I guess. I don't. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. I just saw him in
I've
Parade.
heard
Do
of
you
it.
know
I
the show
haven't seen it though.
Parade? If you're ever going to make a trip to the US in the next 6 months, I think it's every Jewish person should see it. He's in it. He plays Leo Frank, who's actually the person in the incident, unfortunately,
Yeah,
that started off the ADL. And it's just, and Jason Robert Brown, who's a phenomenal Jewish composer who's done so many beautiful, beautiful shows last 5 years, Songs for a New World, 13, which is about a bar mitzvah, and uh, that show you should see if you could find. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but find a bootleg. See if you could find one online. I support Broadway. I support paying for tickets, but for you who's like across the pond, find a bootleg or listen to the soundtrack. It's
before
available
all the
on all
Americans buy
streaming.
tickets
But
and be legitimate, but it's just people across the way.
yeah, yeah, buy tickets, support live theater. Okay, I we've been here for a while, and I I think this is a great note to leave it on. I'm very, very happy that you came, that you gave us your time. It's like 1 a.m. over there, which is fucking insane, and you need a good night's sleep. You need a meal if you haven't had a meal. But um, to plug yourself, say everything, leave us with something that we can munch on. Tell us where you are and
Yeah, so
what you
I
have
mean,
planned.
firstly, like, thank you so much for your time and having me on. It's a real honor.
Yeah.
It's been a I can't believe it's been 2 hours. Like most of my content is like about a minute, so we're way up on that. But yeah, it's really refreshing to speak with you, and I love what you do with Hot Jewish Energy. I hope that people find what I say engaging. You might disagree with what I say, but I think the thing to remember is that I always fight for Jewish rights, for Jewish civil rights, for truth about Israel, for freedom in the world, because we live in the world. We need to stand up for our Iranian brothers and sisters, and for our Hindu friends, and for our Ukrainian friends, and build that global community. I think we need to fight to restore civility in politics. I think we need to fight against all the extremist entryism, whether that's the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world or the Squad. I think they pose a big danger to us. And if you've enjoyed this, please follow me at the Modern Maccabee. You know,
Do you want to spell it out for our audio only
Um,
listeners?
you can Google, and you can try it on Instagram and see what happens. And if you find me, it's fake. So there we go.
If anything, you guys are going to see it on when the promos go out this summer. This isn't airing until the summer, but his tags will all be there, and you can catch up with Dan. Really great content, and I thank you. Thank you for being here. And this has been the Hot Jewish Podcast. You can find me at Hot Jewish Energy, at Hot Jewish Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and or Twitter. You can buy my merch, which is going to be revamped soon. And yeah, find Dan at Modern Maccabee. And thank you guys for watching and listening. And have a phenomenal night, day, wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this. And stay hot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for watching. This is Hot Jewish Energy. If you like this episode, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share your favorite moment in the comments. If you're on any of the podcasting platforms, give us a 5-star rating and let us know your favorite part of the show. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.